Remember when grabbing a quick bite actually meant something? When our streets smelled like fresh coffee, crispy fries, and that one burger joint we all loved? Well, friends, that America is fading fast. In just the last few years, 7 famous food brands have quietly packed their bags and left the United States. Why? Greedy corporations? High costs? Or something much deeper about who we've become as a nation? Stick around, because what you're about to hear will shock you, frustrate you, and maybe even break your heart a little. Chapter 1. Nando's. Let's start with Nando's, the South African-born peri-peri chicken king. When they touched down in America a decade ago, critics said this could be the next Chipotle. It had that smoky spice, that upbeat Afro-Portuguese vibe, the music, the flame, the swagger. Early stores in Washington, D.C. and Chicago pulled lines out the door. But then reality hit. Operating costs in U.S. cities exploded. Rent doubled, chicken prices soared, and wages rose faster than sales. Corporate taxes, complex permits, and the cost of imported spices squeezed margins until the fire went out. By 2023, new openings froze. In 2025, Nando's quietly announced it would focus on its home turf, the UK and Africa, where it still dominates. For fans, it wasn't just the loss of a restaurant, it was the loss of a cultural flavor we rarely tasted here. Employees told us it felt like family breaking up. The grills went cold. The murals came down, and hundreds of workers were left asking, what now? Nando's called it business strategy, but to American fans, it felt deeply personal. Another sign that global brands are finding America too expensive to love. Chapter 2. Costa Coffee. Next up, Costa Coffee, Britain's pride, born from 2 Italian brothers in London and later bought by Coca-Cola for $5 billion. Coke wanted an empire to rival Starbucks. The plan looked bulletproof. Huge marketing budget, classy European branding, and a caffeine-addicted America. But the US coffee landscape is brutal. Starbucks owns the third-place culture. Dunkin' owns the working-class morning rush. Costa never found its tribe. Too fancy for drive-thru America. Too unknown for brand loyalty. Add to that, local cafes exploding in popularity. People choosing indie, organic, or aesthetic coffee spots instead of chains. By 2025, the math just didn't work. No grand farewell, no closing sale. One week the stores were open, the next week, lights out. Behind those darkened windows were young baristas who'd built community, college kids, writers, delivery drivers, suddenly left without paychecks or a place to gather. For Coca-Cola, it was a line on a spreadsheet. For the neighborhoods, it was silence where laughter used to echo. Chapter 3. Pret A Manger. Pret A Manger came in with an idea Americans were ready for. Fresh sandwiches, clean ingredients, no fryers, no microwaves. It thrived around office towers, Wall Street bankers, DC staffers, tech workers. In 2018, you could barely find a table during lunch. Then came 2020. Offices emptied, commuters vanished, and Pret's lifeline snapped overnight. They tried everything: subscriptions, delivery apps, new breakfast deals, but work-from-home culture changed America forever. By 2023, half their stores were gone. By 2025, most had been sold or shuttered. Pret shifted its energy to Europe and Asia, where walking culture and city centers still thrive. The brand didn't fail, our routine did. America stopped rushing downtown for lunch. Pret's model stopped fitting who we'd become. Chapter 4. Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons, Canada's national treasure, the taste of hockey mornings and maple donuts. When they crossed the border, Americans expected comfort with a northern twist, but expansion came too fast. Franchisees complained of strict contracts, low profits, and poor management under the restaurant brand's international umbrella. Competition was fierce. Starbucks had loyalty apps, Dunkin' had speed, Krispy Kreme had nostalgia. Tim Hortons had confusion. Their menu ballooned with smoothies, burgers, espresso, trying to be everything, pleasing no one. By 2024, sales tanked. Locations from Ohio to New York quietly disappeared. To the company, it was consolidation. To locals, it was another empty storefront. One Ohio mother said, "It was our morning ritual before school. When they left, it felt like part of our small town left too." That's the emotional cost corporate balance sheets never show. Chapter 5. Steak and Shake. Now, this one cuts deep because it's truly American. Steak and Shake opened in 1934 in Normal, Illinois. Born in the Great Depression, built on grit and flavor. For generations, it was where first dates happened, where veterans met for coffee, where kids begged for fries and a shake after Little League. But as fast casual giants like Five Guys, Shake Shack, and Smashburger rose, Steak and Shake stumbled. Old equipment, outdated menus, declining service, and corporate debt crushed it. Between 2018 and 2025, hundreds of stores closed or converted to counter-only service. The neon sign that once symbolized American optimism flickered out across the Midwest. When locals saw another Steak and Shake closing, it felt like watching a piece of Americana crumble, the diner dream fading into memory. Chapter 6. Jollibee. Then came Jollibee, the Filipino joy brand that made fried chicken fun again. Born in the heart of Manila, it wasn't just another fast food chain. It was a movement of flavor and family. Their secret? A mix of crispy chicken, sweet spaghetti, and that iconic red bee, smiling, dancing, spreading happiness wherever he went. For years, Jollibee was hailed as the fastest-growing fast food chain on earth. In every city they entered, from Singapore to Dubai, they brought something unique, Filipino joy served on a plate. And when they landed in California, Texas, and New York, it was more than a restaurant opening. It was a homecoming. Lines stretched around the block. People waited for hours, waving flags, singing songs, and tasting childhood memories reborn. It was pride, nostalgia, and identity, all deep-fried and smiling. But joy can be fragile. As the global economy shifted, inflation soared, shipping costs rose, and labor became harder to find. Every chicken leg, every packet of banana ketchup, every shipment of flour became more expensive to move, harder to source, slower to deliver. And when your brand is built on happiness, delays and shortages don't just hurt profits, they break hearts. By 2025, Jollibee's parent company made a difficult call. They turned focus toward Asia and the Middle East, regions that were booming, affordable, and deeply connected to the brand's roots. Officially, the company said it was about strategic realignment. Unofficially, it meant something deeper, a quiet retreat from the Western dream. In America, expansion plans froze. Dozens of new stores that were supposed to open stayed just blueprints. Some locations quietly closed, their once busy lobbies now quiet, the bee mascot standing still, smiling through the silence. For the Filipino diaspora, these weren't just restaurants, they were sanctuaries. Places where families laughed, shared stories, and found a piece of home thousands of miles away. To see those golden counters dim, those familiar songs fade, felt like losing a heartbeat of the homeland. Yet, even in retreat, the bee endures. Because Jollibee was never just about food, IT was about faith and joy, no matter how far from home. And maybe, one day, that bee will buzz back stronger than ever, bringing happiness once again to every corner of the world. Chapter 7. Subway. And finally, the Titan. Subway, the brand that once defined affordable eating and customization before customization was cool. It began in 1965 as a humble sandwich shop in Bridgeport, Connecticut, just a dream between two friends and a $1,000 loan. Decades later, it became a global empire, more than 25,000 U.S. locations, and twice that number worldwide. For millions, it was the quick lunch, the after-school meal, the smell of fresh bread that meant comfort. But success breeds shadows. Behind that cheerful, "Eat fresh" slogan, cracks began to form. Franchisees complained of rising fees and corporate pressure. Customers noticed shrinking portions and declining quality. Then came the bread scandal, the controversial marketing, and the public trust that slowly evaporated online. As new, health-focused chains rose, Chipotle, Sweetgreen, Firehouse Subs, Subway looked old, stuck between fast food and fine dining, unsure of what it wanted to be. And when the pandemic hit, the empire trembled. Thousands of stores closed their doors. For the first time in decades, Subway's growth turned into retreat. By 2023, the company had no choice but to sell, handed over to a global investment firm with deep pockets but little attachment to its roots. What followed wasn't rebirth, it was reallocation. Headquarters slimmed down, American franchises disappeared, and new plans focused on foreign expansion where labor costs were low and profits high. Officially, they called it streamlining operations. Unofficially, it was something far bigger, a slow, quiet exit from America. Factories once buzzing with bread ovens now stood empty. Longtime owners watched their shops replaced by new brands with shinier promises. And yet, in many towns, the green and yellow sign still hangs. The smell of baking bread still drifts from the doorway. But look closer, that familiar promise to eat fresh no longer comes from a homegrown American brand. It now belongs to a corporation managed from boardrooms overseas. It's a quiet ending, disguised as efficiency, wrapped in global economics. But to those who grew up grabbing a 6-inch sub after school, or working their first job behind that counter, it feels like something more. It feels like the end of an era when fast food was local, familiar, and ours. And together, Jollibee and Subway remind us, the story of food is the story of people, of what we lose, we keep, and how even the smallest meal can carry the weight of home. So what happened to the America that built the world's biggest food brands? It's not just economics, it's culture, lifestyle, and identity. We cook less, we stream more, we rush differently. Foreign companies can't read that rhythm, and even American ones struggle to keep up. Every time a restaurant closes, we lose more than a menu. We lose first dates, birthdays, job interviews, friendships. We lose the corner booth where stories were told and laughter filled the air. The question isn't only why they left, it's what do we want our next generation of food culture to be? Because America still has the appetite. We just have to decide what we're hungry for.